The evening was calm and soft, with warm lights shining from small shops on the street. Mark, a single father, held his daughter Lily's hand as they walked toward a little food stall. It was their Friday habit, something simple that made their week feel normal and safe. Lily loved the spicy noodles, and Mark loved seeing her smile after a long day of work. Mark ordered the food and sat with Lily at their usual small table. The smell of warm broth filled the air. Lily happily swung her feet under the chair while eating. Mark watched her with a gentle smile. He lived for moments like this, small moments of peace. But tonight, something felt different. Something felt watched. Mark lifted his eyes and noticed a figure standing near the corner of the street. The figure was very still, almost too still for a normal person. It looked like a woman, wrapped in old clothes, a hood pulled low over her face. Her posture was tense, as if she wanted to stay invisible. Her hands were shaking, and her clothes looked dirty and torn. She looked tired, lost, and hungry. Mark tried to look away, but something about her drew his attention. It wasn't fear, not danger. Something else. Something sad. When Lily picked up her spoon to take another bite, the woman's head lifted slightly, only enough for Mark to see her eyes. They were glowing softly, like light passing through glass, but there was no anger in them, only hunger and deep loneliness. The woman stared at Lily's plate as if she had not eaten in days. Mark felt a strange mix of emotions. His protective instincts rose immediately. He was a father first. He looked around to see if anyone else noticed her, but the street was normal. People walked, cars passed, life moved. Only he seemed aware of her existence. The woman suddenly stepped back deeper into the shadows when she realized Mark saw her. She lowered her face again and turned away as if she wanted to disappear. Her movements were strange. They were silent, too smooth, too controlled. It didn't look human. It looked different. Lily tugged on Mark's sleeve and asked softly, "Daddy, why is that lady sad?" Mark gently placed his hand on her head and whispered, "I don't know, sweetheart." But the truth was clear now. He did know. She was starving. The woman hesitated before walking away. Her feet made no sound, not even a single step on the hard ground. The hood slipped a little when she turned, revealing something even more shocking. Her skin glowed faintly like silver dust, and strange markings ran across her cheek. Mark had never seen anything like it, except in sci-fi movies. His heart beat faster. She was not human. He was sure now. The woman hugged her arms around her thin body and tried to slip quietly into the narrow alley behind the food stalls. She did not beg for food. She did not try to steal. She only watched and left, like she had no right to be seen. But something about her weakness, her hunger, her silence, felt wrong to ignore. Mark was not the kind of man who looked away when someone needed help, even if that someone was not human. He watched her take slow steps, each step looking painful. He could see her body trembling from hunger or exhaustion, maybe both. She seemed ready to collapse at any moment. He wondered how long she had been wandering, hiding, starving, frightened, alone. Lily's small voice broke his thoughts. "Daddy, she looks like she needs help." Mark gently placed his hand on her head and whispered, "I don't know, sweetheart." But the truth was clear now. He did know. She was suffering. As the woman reached the edge of the alley, her legs gave a small shake. She placed her hand on the wall to balance herself. Her hood slipped again, and this time Mark saw a small part of her ear. It was pointed, thin, and softly glowing. Nothing like a human ear. The air felt colder suddenly. This was real. A real alien. Right here in his small, quiet town. The woman tried to walk faster, desperate to vanish before anyone else saw her. But Mark felt something stronger than fear. Responsibility. Human responsibility. His daughter was right. She needed help. He took a deep breath, stepped forward, and called out in a low, steady voice, "Wait, don't go." The woman froze instantly. Her whole body stiffened like a hunted animal. She did not look back. She just stood there in silence, afraid of what would happen next. Mark felt his heart pounding. Lily watched with wide, curious eyes. The alley was quiet. The night was still. The world seemed to pause in that one moment. Would she run? Would she attack? Would she trust him? He didn't know. But the next few seconds would change everything.
The woman did not move. She stood frozen at the entrance of the alley, as if Mark's voice had turned her to stone. Her shoulders shook slightly, not from anger, but from fear. Mark felt Lily slowly move closer to him, holding his hand tighter. The night air grew heavier, as if waiting for something important to happen. Mark took one careful step forward. He kept his voice soft. "It's okay. We won't hurt you." Still, the woman remained silent. Her hood stayed low, her body trembling. She looked like someone who had been running for too long, running from something terrible. Finally, she turned her head a little, just enough for Mark to see her eyes again. They were filled with fear, but also something else. Shame. She whispered in a weak voice, "I am sorry." Her voice was soft, almost broken. It did not sound dangerous at all. It sounded tired and lost. Mark exchanged a quick look with Lily, and he felt his heart soften even more. "You don't have to be sorry," he said gently. "You didn't do anything." But the woman shook her head. She glanced at Lily's food earlier, and now she couldn't even look at them. "I did," she whispered. "I looked too long." Mark understood immediately. She was apologizing for staring at the food, for being hungry in front of them, for existing where she was not welcome. Lily slowly stepped forward, hiding behind Mark's arm, but still brave enough to speak. "Are you hungry?" she asked. The woman flinched at the question, as if the word hungry hurt her more than anything else. She hesitated before nodding once, a small, shameful nod. Mark felt a deep ache in his chest. He could tell she had not eaten for days, maybe weeks. Her thin arms, shaking hands, weak legs, every part of her body showed suffering. But there was still something strange, something not human. The soft glow of her skin, the faint shimmer in her eyes, the way she moved silently like a shadow. She was alien, but she was also scared, fragile, and alone. Mark spoke gently. "We can give you some food if you want." The woman stepped back immediately. "No," she said quickly. "No, no, dangerous." Her voice cracked like she was using the last of her strength to speak. Mark frowned. "Dangerous? Why?" She froze again, her breath shaking. Lily looked confused. "We not dangerous," she said in her small voice. The woman's head lowered. "Not you," she whispered. "Me." Mark felt a chill run down his back. What did she mean by that? Slowly, the woman lifted one hand and pulled her hood a little higher, revealing more of her face. Her silver skin reflected the dim streetlight. Strange patterns covered the side of her cheek like glowing tattoos. Her eyes were brighter now, showing fear and exhaustion. Mark and Lily stared in quiet shock. She said, "I am not from here. I am hunted." The word hunted hit the night like a heavy stone. Mark felt Lily grip his hand harder. "Who is hunting you?" Mark asked, keeping his voice steady. The woman shook her head. "Bad men," she whispered. "They take my people. They test. They hurt." Her voice trembled with old pain. She looked at the ground. "I escaped." Mark's heart tightened. She wasn't just a lost alien. She was a survivor. She continued in broken English. "I hide days. I hide nights. I not sleep. I not eat." Lily took a small step closer and said softly, "You must be very tired." The woman stared at the child, her glowing eyes full of confusion, like she didn't understand kindness. She hesitated before whispering, "I do not want trouble. I only want to go far, far away." Mark looked at her thin, shaking body. She would not make it far in this condition. And something else worried him. If she was hunted, then danger was close. "Where are these hunters now?" he asked carefully. The woman's eyes widened with sudden fear. Near, she whispered. Very near. Mark felt his protective instincts rise again. He looked around the street, studying the shadows, the rooftops, the silent corners. "Why were you looking at my daughter's food?" Mark asked gently. The woman lowered her head. She said, "I was hungry," admitted in a tiny voice. "But I will not steal. I will not harm." Lily, with her innocent heart, stepped forward and held out her small bowl of noodles. "You can have some," she said kindly. The woman gasped softly and stepped back like Lily's kindness was a bright light, too warm and too painful. "I cannot," she whispered. "If I take food, they will smell it." Mark stiffened. "Who?" She answered with a shaking voice. "The hunters. They smell heat. They smell energy. They smell us." Mark's stomach twisted at the thought. He glanced at Lily, whose brave little eyes stayed on the alien woman. "You said they're near," Mark said. "How near?" The woman looked up at the sky, her eyes glowing brighter from fear. "Close," she whispered. "They searched this town." Mark felt the weight of the danger now. The woman wasn't just in trouble. She had brought trouble with her. But when he looked at her, thin, hungry, scared, he couldn't ignore her. He couldn't leave her alone. "Come with us," Mark said finally. "We'll hide you." The woman's eyes widened in shock. "You help me?" "Yes," Mark said firmly. "We'll help you." For the first time, a tiny spark of hope lit in her glowing eyes. But then, in the distance, strange lights flickered in the sky, moving closer, searching.
The strange lights in the sky moved slowly at first, like drifting stars, but Rena's breath quickened the moment she saw them. Her body stiffened, her eyes wide with fear. Mark noticed her panic and felt his own heart begin to race. Something terrible was coming, something she had been running from. "They found me," Rena whispered. Her voice shook so much it was almost silent. She kept staring at the sky, as if the lights were hungry eyes watching her. Mark looked up. The lights didn't look like normal aircraft or drones. They moved too smoothly, too silently, not shaking or blinking like human machines. They floated in a strange pattern, scanning the ground with soft beams of blue. "Daddy, what are those?" Lily whispered, clinging to his arm. Mark pulled her close. "I don't know, sweetheart," he said, but his voice held worry. Rena stepped back, her legs trembling. "I must go," she said softly. "If they catch me, they hurt me again." Her fear was so real, so strong, that Mark felt it like a cold wind. "But you're too weak to run," Mark replied. "You'll collapse again." Rena shook her head. "If I stay, you in danger. We're already in danger. If they see you alone, it will be worse." Another beam of blue light swept across the far end of the street. People walking by didn't notice it, like it was hidden from normal eyes. But Rena clearly saw it, and she shut her eyes tightly, whispering something in her own language, a soft and shaking prayer. Mark made a quick decision. "Come with us, now." Rena hesitated only a second, then nodded weakly. He grabbed Lily's hand with one hand and guided Rena with the other. They moved quickly to the back of the food stall. The kitchen door was half open, the owner wasn't around, and the cooking area was quiet. Mark pushed the door gently and led them inside. The warm smell of food surrounded them. Pots, bowls, and old shelves filled the small room. "Hide here for now," Mark said, closing the door behind them. Rena leaned against the counter, her breath shaking. Her hands clutched her stomach. She was in worse condition than Mark had guessed. Lily looked worried. "She needs food, Daddy." Mark nodded. I know, but we have to be careful. Another strange humming sound filled the air outside. Rena pressed herself against the wall, shaking like a terrified animal. What are those things? Mark whispered. Rena looked down, her voice barely audible. Hunters. Hunters? They take my people. They say we dangerous. They say we monsters. But they lie. Tears gathered in her glowing eyes. They take us for tests. They hurt us. They try to change us. We not survive. Mark felt a deep anger rise inside him. Whoever those hunters were, they were not just searching, they were torturing. And now they were here, near his daughter. How many are coming? Mark asked. Rena closed her eyes, listening carefully. 3, maybe 4. They follow my heat. Your heat? My energy, she explained in short breaths. All my people glow inside. They can track it. Mark looked around the small kitchen. His eyes landed on an old storage door near the back. It led to a small room filled with boxes and broken shelves, maybe a place to hide. Before he could speak, a sudden sharp light flashed through the kitchen window. A beam of blue light. Rena gasped and covered her mouth to keep from making noise. Lily pressed closer to Mark. The beam moved slow, scanning the room like a searching eye. Mark held his breath, praying it wouldn't catch Rena's glow. After a long moment, the beam moved away. Rena slid down the wall, shaking harder than before. They know I'm near, she whispered. We must move. They search all building. Mark opened the storage door quickly. In here, he said. The room was dusty and small, lit only by a weak bulb. Old cardboard boxes and unused cooking pans were everywhere. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Rena stepped inside, slowly, her legs weak. Lily followed, still holding Rena's hand. Daddy, we must save her, she whispered, with a brave but trembling voice. Mark nodded. We will try, sweetheart. Suddenly they heard heavy footsteps outside. Not human footsteps. They were too heavy, too direct, too cold. A metallic clicking sound echoed across the alley. Rena's breath stopped. They are here, she whispered. Mark closed the storage door just enough to leave a tiny gap for air. He listened, every muscle tense. Voices outside, strange and sharp, not like normal speech. A sound like scanning lasers moving along the wall. A mechanical growl, almost like a machine sniffing for heat. Mark looked at Rena, her glowing eyes wide with terror. He whispered, "Stay quiet." She nodded, covering her mouth tightly with her hands. Lily hid behind a stack of boxes, her little hands shaking. Mark wrapped his arm around her protectively. The hunters moved closer. The humming grew louder. A shadow passed by the window, tall and inhuman. Mark prayed they wouldn't open the kitchen door, but then
The kitchen door creaked as the metallic hand pushed it slowly open. A cold blue glow spilled into the room, touching the floor and the walls like a silent warning. Mark held Lily close, his heart pounding so loud he felt sure the hunters could hear it. Rena crouched low behind the boxes, her whole body trembling. She covered her glowing skin as much as she could, trying to hide her light. The door opened fully, and one of the hunters stepped inside. It was not human. Its body looked like a machine, made of black iron and strange living metal. Its head was smooth and mask-like, with a single long blue line running across the front like a frozen eye. Its arms were long, ending in sharp, claw-like fingers. Every step it took made a low mechanical growl, like grinding steel. Rena hit her face and whispered, "Do not breathe loud." Mark placed his hand over Lily's mouth gently, calming her breathing. The room felt smaller, tighter, suffocating. The hunter held a device. It looked like a metal rod glowing with faint red lights. Every time it lifted the rod, the lights pulsed faster. Mark realized it was scanning for Rena's energy. The hunter moved around the kitchen slowly.
It was careful, patient. It was a predator. Mark's eyes darted to the storage door. A tiny gap let him watch the creature. He could see its blue light sweeping every surface. The hunter took another step, closer to their hiding place. Rena shut her eyes tightly. She pressed her hands against her chest, trying to hide her glow inside her body. But even she couldn't stop it completely. A faint shimmer leaked through her skin, small but dangerous. The hunter paused, as if sensing something. Its head turned toward their hiding area. The blue light brightened, searching. Mark felt his body freeze. Every instinct told him to run, to grab Lily and escape. But he also saw Rena, weak and terrified. If he left her now, she would be taken back to torture. Mark clenched his jaw. Not in my town, he thought. Not in front of my daughter. The hunter stepped closer, its claws tapping the floor in cold rhythm. It reached out toward the storage door. Then, a loud crash sounded outside the building. The hunter froze and snapped its head toward the noise. Mark held his breath. Someone knocked over a metal trash bin in the alley. A stray dog barked twice and ran. The hunter swung around and marched toward the door, stepping out of the kitchen to search outside. Its heavy footsteps faded slightly. Mark let out a slow breath. Lily hugged him tightly, hiding her face in his shirt. Rena's whole body sagged with relief, but only for a moment, because footsteps were returning. More than one this time. 2, maybe 3 hunters. "We cannot stay," Rena whispered, her voice shaking. "They come together now. They know I'm near." Mark nodded quickly. "Is there another way out?" he whispered. Rena pointed to the back of the storage room. "There, a small window." Mark turned and saw it. A tiny square window near the ceiling, half covered with an old cloth. It wasn't big enough for him, but Rena and Lily might fit. "Come on," he said, lifting Lily toward it. Rena helped steady her. Then, a heavy slam hit the kitchen door, followed by a mechanical roar. They were breaking in fast. Mark pushed a box under the window, lifted Lily onto it. "Climb, quick!" Lily obeyed, crawling up to the window. Rena helped steady her. Another slam. This time, the door cracked. Blue sparks flashed as the hunters forced it open. "Daddy, hurry!" Lily cried softly. Mark pushed Rena toward the window. "You first!" Rena shook her head. "No, you child go first." "She's already halfway," Mark said. "Now you go." Rena hesitated, staring at Mark with glowing eyes full of fear and confusion. "Why you help me?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Because you need it, and because humans don't stand by and watch someone suffer." It was the first real HFY moment, and Rena understood. Finally, she climbed up. But her strength was failing, and she slipped. Mark grabbed her wrists and pushed her through the window as gently as he could. She rolled onto the ground outside, gasping for breath. Lily reached out to her. "Come on, run!" Mark was about to climb up next when a heavy slam hit the kitchen door, followed by a mechanical roar. They were breaking in fast. "Go!" he shouted to Lily and Rena. "Run!" He jumped down from the box and grabbed the nearest heavy object he could find, a metal frying pan. It wasn't much, but it was something. He swung it at the first hunter with all his strength. The pan crashed against its arm, sending sparks flying. The hunter staggered for a moment, just enough time for Mark to block its next strike. "Daddy!" Lily screamed from the window. Rena grabbed Lily's hand, pulling her back. "We must go, now!" Lily cried but obeyed. Mark kept swinging, keeping the hunters focused on him instead of the escaping girls. "Come on," he growled at the machines. "You want someone? You take me, not them." The hunters advanced, their claws glowing with blue light. Mark backed slowly towards the kitchen, buying time. If Rena escaped, maybe the hunters would follow her and leave Lily safe. Outside, Rena and Lily ran down the alley. Rena looked back once, her glowing eyes filled with guilt and fear. The three hunters lunged toward Mark, their claws shining with cold blue light. Mark blocked one strike with the frying pan, but the force pushed him back into the wall. His arm shook from the impact. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he stayed standing. He refused to fall, not while Lily and Rena were still running. The tallest hunter raised its arm again, its claws aimed straight at Mark's chest. Mark tightened his grip. "Come on then," he growled. "I'm not afraid of you." The hunter swung. Mark dodged and smashed the frying pan into the side of its head. Sparks flew. The machine staggered. Not defeated, but slowed. Mark used the moment to run toward the kitchen doorway, forcing the hunters to chase him deeper inside the building. He needed to keep them away from Lily and Rena for as long as possible. Meanwhile, outside, Rena and Lily ran down the narrow alley. Rena's steps were shaky, but she pushed herself harder. Lily held her hand tightly. "Daddy said run," Lily whispered through tears. "He will come." Rena looked back, her heart trembling with fear. She prayed he would survive. She had seen too much death, too much cruelty. She didn't want this brave human to be another loss. Back inside, Mark ducked behind a counter as one hunter slammed through a stack of metal pots. The sound was deafening, but the chaos gave Mark an idea. If he made enough noise, maybe he could confuse their scanners. Mark grabbed a metal tray and threw it across the room. It clattered loudly, bouncing off the floor. The hunters snapped their heads toward the sound, their sensors reacting instantly. Good. They were following noise now, not energy only. Mark used this chance to slip through the back door toward the alley. He had no plan beyond survival, but he wasn't dying here. Outside, Rena and Lily reached the end of the alley. There was an old storage building ahead, dark and empty. Rena pointed, "We hide there." They ran inside, the door screeching softly as she pulled it open. Inside, it smelled of dust and old wood. Broken shelves, rusted tools, and torn boxes lay scattered around. Rena guided Lily behind a stack of crates. "Stay quiet," Rena whispered, her voice shaking. "Your father, he brave, very brave." Lily wiped her tears, trying to be strong. "Daddy always comes back," she whispered through tears. Outside, footsteps approached fast, but not the heavy metal steps of hunters. It was Mark, gasping for breath, running toward them. "Daddy!" Lily cried, jumping into his arms. Mark hugged her tightly, relief crashing through him. It's okay. I'm here." Rena looked at him with disbelief. "You live," she whispered, her voice soft with gratitude. Mark nodded. "Did you think I'd let them win?" But their relief ended quickly. A loud mechanical roar echoed behind them. The hunters had found the trail, and they were coming fast. Mark closed the door quietly and looked around the storage room. "We need to hide," he whispered. "Now!" Rena nodded and placed her hand on Lily's shoulder. They moved to the back of the room, hiding behind an old boiler tank. Mark crouched beside them, listening. The hunters' footsteps entered the alley. Their blue light shone through cracks in the walls. One hunter approached the door and scanned it. A dim glow spread across the wood. Mark held his breath. Lily covered her mouth. Even Rena pressed her glowing skin against the metal tank, dimming her light. Then, the hunters passed by, their sensors fueled by the layers of metal in the old storage building. They walked farther down the alley, scanning the wrong direction. Finally, the footsteps faded. They waited a long moment before anyone moved. Then Mark exhaled shakily. "We did it!" he whispered. "We really did it!" Rena touched the ground with trembling fingers. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved me. You saved child. You saved life." Her voice broke with emotion. "You humans, stronger than stories say." Mark smiled softly. "Not stronger, just willing to do what's right." Rena stood slowly, her legs weak but steady. "I must leave this town," she said. "They return again, they not stop." Mark nodded. "Where will you go?" "Far away," she answered. "To mountains, to safe land. My people hide there." She hesitated, then added, "I will be safe, thanks to you." Lily stepped forward and took off her little bracelet, a simple bead bracelet she always wore. She placed it gently in Rena's hand. "This is for you," she said softly, "so you remember us." Rena looked at the bracelet with wide, glowing eyes. Slowly, she put it around her wrist. "I remember," she said, her voice shaking. "Always." Mark gave her a small bag of leftover food. "You'll need this," he said. Rena held it as if it were the greatest treasure she ever received. She walked to the door, turning back only once, her eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. "If danger come to you," she said, "I return." Mark nodded. "Take care, Rena." Rena stepped into the night, her silhouette fading into the fog, free again, alive, because one human father chose kindness over fear. Mark closed the door and held Lily close. He looked up at the quiet sky, knowing the world was bigger, stranger, and more dangerous than he ever imagined. But he also knew one truth. Sometimes humanity itself is the strongest power in the universe. And tonight, humanity won.